What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today I want to talk to you about SoFi. I want to give you a quick overview of the data points, some latest updates, and where things might be going from here. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And without further ado, let's get right to it. So it is currently down 1.31%, currently $5.67. And in all honesty, I'm surprised it's still in the fives and not in the $2 range, especially that Jim Cramer actually likes SoFi. So usually that is a little bit more of a curse. Of course, when this was announced, it did go down roughly around 3%, if I remember correctly. And coincidentally as well, just the sentiment on SoFi just went very much negative. So I don't know if this is because of Jim Cramer himself, or potentially just the vagueness about this whole Wyndham Capital all cash deal, because as right now we still do not know exactly how much they did physically pay. And of course we could just tentatively wait, I do believe, up until this. So they do have this set for, I believe, right here. So on May the 1st is their actual earnings. So they've announced that, so potentially we could just wait, I guess, one more month, and then we will have a little bit more credibility, or at least some knowledge about the actual deal right here. But based on all the actual articles that have been coming out around this, clearly a lot of positiveness is being had. So I think in general, like I said, SoFi is building this big company. I personally did have my reservations about this deal given the circumstances of the economy right now, but of course, I could be wrong. I'm not a financial advisor. You guys do your own due diligence at the end of the day. But no matter what, though, they do have, I think it is $1 billion plus in cash. So even if they do pay, for instance, $250,000 or even a third potentially, then I think that's still a fairly good deal that SoFi would still come out on top. If it is closer to the $1 billion, which I think is very unlikely, but if it is around that, I see that as a potential negative. Of course, though, I could be wrong. When it comes down to shorts, I'll give you guys a quick update on that. Once again, as I always say, I don't see a squeeze happening. This is just more for a benchmark. Short score is currently 67. Utilization is around 69, give or take. Shorts today are increasing 97,000 shares. And which, of course, like I've said in the past, is just a drop in the bucket. It's absolutely small. 10.86 is a percentage of the free float being shorted. And that works out to be around 85.92 million shares being shorted. So the fact that they are increasing on so far a red day kind of is just in line. They're taking advantage of the broader economic fears right now. So of course that's at play, but I think generally speaking, there's going to be a lot of big things that do come. And if their earnings are very positive on May the 1st, then of course you can anticipate a lot more analyst ratings jumping on board, because the last one was Mizuho on March the 23rd, where they did give a $9 price target. And coincidentally, Mizuho as well on February the 15th, Morgan Stanley February the 8th. So I do see and anticipate a lot more analysts jumping on board, especially with very good earnings. And when it comes down to the forecast, it does look like some analysts recently did jump on board over the last couple of weeks to really bump up the overall estimated earnings per share. Because of course, when it comes down to earnings, there's several different things that people care about and investors look for: earnings per share, revenue, future guidance, and of course in SoFi's case, it's just how they're trying to mitigate risk and trying to potentially offset about that whole lawsuit about student debt and so forth. So definitely that's going to be a hot topic that is brought up most likely by analysts, and typically SoFi's earnings are a little bit on the long aspect, only because so many analysts are curious about SoFi and ask a lot of questions. So of course that most likely will be the case in the coming earnings. And when it comes down to the options activity today, a little bit more a Cramer effect. So clearly Cramer spoke up. A lot of people are very much anticipating SoFi is going to go down. So currently right now there is $449,000 worth of puts being purchased and $241,000 worth of call premium. So a little bit more oriented towards the puts as of right now, which of course means a little bit more of a potential downside coming. And as far as secondary market, there's only been 2 transactions today, so 109,000 and 690,000. But as you can see from yesterday, there was some big money that's been buying, so of course that could be perceived as fairly positive. Number of retail investors have been getting out ever since the 31st, and today it is once again pulling back a little bit, and so causing the stochastic to kind of reset. So it got very high, so potentially overbought. So a little bit more of a cooling off period currently, but there is an underlying bear sentiment. So a lot of bearishness behind the scenes with SoFi, but once again, I think it's just the broader economic fear that's been happening, and Jim Cramer didn't really help anyone, unfortunately. But on the actual chart, it is at a very pivotal point because it's still in the higher percentile of the Bollinger Band and also above that 100-day moving average. So of course, by staying above that, it's doing fairly well. So most likely, if it can actually stay above that for today, then you can anticipate more so this range. So between here and $6 in the upcoming week potentially, or going into next week. And as far as some points to really watch for, so currently $5.69. So it is between that S1 and the pivot. So $5.33 is something to watch for, and vice versa, $6.05. So if it can get over that pivot point, then in theory, it can do a lot of good momentum behind the scenes. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi in the comments below. This is just a very quick overview of potentially where I see things going, what the data points are saying. So ultimately, there is a lot of bearishness behind the scenes, but I think the technicals are holding up fairly well. So that's just my own interpretation, like I said. But let me know your thoughts on SoFi. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. If you do like my SoFi content and want to support the channel, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that said, appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on SoFi.